You know that feeling, right? When someone says something that's just designed to sting. But what if you could just, poof, make those words powerless? Well, today we're diving into some really effective psychological techniques to do just that. Handle insults, protect your own peace of mind, and stay in control, all without ever getting into a fight.
So let's start right there. Just for a second, think about it. Someone tries to put you down, to make you feel small. What's that immediate gut reaction for you? How does that actually feel in the moment?
If you feel a little flash of anger or a sting of pain, guess what? You're completely normal. That is a universal human experience. And it's funny. That feeling is often the most intense for people who are genuinely kind and empathetic. It's almost like your good nature can paint a target on your back sometimes.
Okay, so before we jump into the how-to, let's just quickly understand why. Why do these words have so much power? What's really going on in our brains when this happens? Here's the thing. It's not just in your head, it's actual biology. When you're insulted, your brain literally releases chemicals that cause real, legitimate emotional pain. It's a measurable response, so no, you're not overreacting, and you're definitely not just imagining that it hurts. It's real.
So, knowing it's a real pain, what's our first instinct, right? It's to fight back, to argue, to defend ourselves. But here's the twist. That is probably the biggest trap you could possibly fall into.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly. On one hand, you have your expectation. You think, if I just explain myself, this will all be over. But the reality? Arguing is like pouring fuel on a fire. See, the person trying to insult you isn't looking for a reasonable discussion. They are looking for a reaction. And when you argue, you give them exactly what they want.
And that's the bottom line right there. The second you get flustered, the moment you start to argue back, they've won. Their entire goal was to get under your skin and disrupt your calm. By reacting, you're basically sending them a confirmation. Yep, mission accomplished. So what do we do instead? Let's get into our first and maybe most powerful solution, the power of silence. It sounds so simple, but it is incredibly effective. There is this really powerful piece of wisdom that says those who are silent have no enemies. Now, this isn't about being weak or passive, not at all. It's about having the strength to choose not to play their game. In this situation, your silence is your power. So how does it actually play out? Well, it's a pretty simple chain of events. First, they throw out the bait, the insult. Second, you just don't bite. You stay silent, you stay calm, you give them absolutely no emotional reaction. And this is where their whole strategy just falls apart. They get frustrated, they might even try harder. But because they have nothing to feed off of, they just run out of steam and give up. You've essentially starved them of the attention they were craving. Okay, but what if being silent just isn't your style, or the situation doesn't feel right for it? Let's look at our second solution, which is a bit more active. Let's call it agree with a smile. Okay, so let's picture it. Someone looks you dead in the eye and says something just awful, like, you are a terrible person. They're saying it specifically to get a rise out of you. What do? You look back calmly, maybe with just a little smile, and you agree with them. You know what? Yeah, okay, I am. It is such a brilliant move. See, an insult needs an argument to have any power. When you just agree, you pull the rug right out from under them. You've taken all the wind out of their sails, and they're just left standing there completely confused. And that brings us to our third and final solution. Now, this one is a bit of a pro-level move, but it might be the most powerful of all. Respond with kindness. So imagine this isn't just a one-off comment. This is someone who is consistently trying to get to you. They're always poking, always prodding, always trying to bring you down. So the counterattack here is to do the absolute last thing on earth they would ever expect. You give them a genuine compliment. They insult you, and you respond with something like, you're a really good person. This is so jarring for them. It creates this massive disconnect that forces them to look at their own behavior next to your kindness. And over time, this can actually start to change their entire mindset about you. So there you have it. Those are the 3 core strategies. I want you to think of them as your new emotional shield, right? A toolkit you can use anytime to protect your peace. Let's just quickly recap them. First, you've got the power of silence, which starves them of a reaction. Second, you can disarm with agreement, which neutralizes the insult on the spot. And third, you can reverse with kindness, which completely flips the entire dynamic. These are your 3 treatments for any verbal attack. The most important thing to remember is that you are the one in control here. You do not have to absorb someone else's negativity. You always get to choose your response. So the only question left is, the next time this happens, which shield are you going to wear?